Hi, this is Little Dwarf playing games while rambling incoherently into a microphone. Why? Well, just because I can, and I continue with the Town of Light, blind. I didn't explore this room yet, so... Yes, I somehow feel it would be beneficial if I could read Italian. Università degli Studi di Bologna. M. Vittorio, that's the king, in the name of Vittorio Emanuele III. But, you know, again, why wouldn't you translate that? Like, I can't even really locate who is it issued to. Okay, that's the brain. It's a bunch of syringes.
March 12th, 1938. Renée T., 16 years old. Menstruation at age 12. Housewife. Father unknown. Mother a seamstress. Admitted in observation yesterday morning from Pontedera, accompanied by a police officer authorized by the examining magistrate of the Court of Pisa to be admitted for a psychiatric evaluation, which I have carried out. Medical certificate. Mental illness preceded by warning signs. Has suffered from depression for a year, believing she had tuberculosis. Food deprivation. We can't read this document. It is forbidden. We mustn't. If they find out, there will be trouble.
Well, first of all, no, this is, you know, the entire thing is clearly not even functioning anymore. I seem to be stuck sort of in my head in the past. It talks about Renée, it talks about you, so we have to read it. It can be kind of enlightening, I guess, possibly.
Have you ever wondered who you are? Yes, of course you've wondered.
What? But relative to who? Like, I guess I was thinking about being her child, because that would link more timeline mindset, and she was pregnant. A relative, maybe your child?
I never had children. I don't think. Let's read it. I must understand. I must remember. She is frightened, hears noises and ghosts, presents serious signs of anxiety, psychosis, suffers from hallucinations. She is anxious, confused, her expression is distressed, a questioning look as if terrified, disoriented. She feels confused, hears voices shouting in her head. She doesn't understand things properly. She has been feeling unwell for 2 or 3 months. When questioned, she replies, "My mother wants to hurt me. I am always scared of her. She chases me." "Why are you here?" "I argued with my mother and was so upset that I felt like my head was spinning. There was a woman there who wanted to force me into a life of prostitution. They wanted to condemn me to be burned at the stake. Children whispered, called my name." March 16th. She couldn't sleep last night. They wanted to condemn her to be burned at the stake. April 4th. Transferred to the calm ward. still under my supervision. Yes, that's true. The ward where Amara was. Yes, the stake. The children wanted to burn Renée. She had to pay for what she'd done, like witches at the stake.
Well, what was it exactly that you had done to deserve to be punished? Because I have a terrible suspicion it's something that a reasonable person today wouldn't think even warrants any kind of punishment, such as, sex work, or maybe even being sexually assaulted and or raped, and maybe having a child as a result of that. Like, people back in the history, they had some pretty fucked up ideas about how certain things happening to you, even if you didn't do them, made you, like, unworthy. It's pretty fucked up.
April 21st. She's more awake this morning and is responding to questions, complains of headaches. She became agitated when she found out her mother was there. She says that one day, many years earlier, she was with a friend of hers and met a man who made her get into a car and took her for a ride. He made her smoke cigarettes and drink liquor, and the man showed her certain things. He tried to hurt her and made her go crazy. She says he promised to marry her and made her swear to keep what had happened a secret. These facts were essentially confirmed by her mother. After that, she became arrogant, impatient, and hostile towards her family, especially her mother. She started taking off her clothes in public. Her moods would swing from laughter to tears. She rants. She pleasures herself. I can't remember these things, only the guilt, the stake. I know I deserve to pay for that guilt. I knew it even then.
Yeah, again, it makes me it makes my blood boil to think this was actual reality, because, again, from the way the story seems to be moving, it very much seems like she was, molested, and as a result of that, she also had, internalized guilt, because the ways, guilt is always internalized. What I meant is internalized sense of, unworthiness, because the way the society has brought her up, she thought she has been sullied by what happened to her, and that somehow it made her lesser. It's very sad and very sort of frustrating to think that's how it worked, and that people. And it happens even nowadays with victims of sexual assault, where they feel they have been made lesser as a person. They are re-traumatized, not only by the act itself, but also by the fact that they feel like they've been made unworthy. But obviously that's deranged and sort of wrong. It's a very unhealthy. It's basically a mental health issue in and of itself, to where your own mind re-traumatizes you because of something that happened to you that you didn't choose. You were a victim in the first place, and then you're a victim again because society ingrained in you this presupposition that, for example, if you lost your virginity, you're somehow worth less, even if you lost it against your will. It's still this is all pretty heavy and sort of rather disturbing. You deserved it. No, you didn't, of course you didn't. Let's look at the rest of the clinical diary to understand.
She was uncooperative during the examination. She didn't want to be stripped and her body remained rigid. Voluntary attention almost totally absent. Probable hallucinations. April 25th. Confused ideas, unable to maintain a spontaneous conversation. Reflexes all normal. Reactive pupils. Let's find Amara, and we'll find the full medical records.
Okay, this was pretty much red to me. Although, wait, was it in its entirety? Like, this certainly was, this part, still under my supervision. But was it all red? Like, I admit I have zoned out a little bit because I'm pretty tired. I'm playing after work. But, she's more... I'll read it and then I'll check. If it was red to me, I'll just cut it out. She's more awake this morning and is responding to questions, complains of headaches. She has become agitated when she found out her mother was there. She says that one day, many years earlier, she was with a friend of hers and met a man who made her go into a car and took her for a ride. Okay, it was read to me. I remember this part because that was specifically about what happened with the man. Probable hallucinations. But was that last part also read? Like, I might be kind of losing my mind myself. Even if we assume Renée's story is true account of what happened, it would never have appeared in the press. It would have never been written. The story of an ordinary young girl is too far removed from the news items which portray pushers and victims as characters in a lawless society. Our hypocritical culture ignores whatever doesn't suit it. In the same manner, it fails to live up to the laws in which it so strongly believes. A young millionaire destroyed by artificial paradises. At a certain times of the day when the clock strikes desire, there is always a suspicious person wandering around in the shadows, showing his photographs, leaflets and powder. That figure has 1,000 of ways to start a conversation. He might ask you for the time, might ask you for a match, or warn you about an oncoming car. If it rains and you don't have an umbrella, he will share you his. That breaks the ice. After a few minutes and words, he has shown you his stuff. Chick stuff, all very exclusive, new inventions, a guaranteed result, surprising. Try to believe it. Victims are recruited from all classes of society. The newspapers report that victims can be found in the most senior employees of the U.S. anti-narcotics force, just as in the high society of Nietzsche or Cannes. And among actors, just remember Wallace Reed, Maria Orska, Alma Rubens, or Yvonne George. Yeah, I don't think they read this. So this is about getting hooked on drugs, I guess. Which I would imagine, if you were to go with a route of like forcing someone to do prostitution, you might as well get them addicted to drugs, because that would make them easier to control. She said something about finding the rest of the records.
The grounds at the back of the hospital, and then down to the kitchens. This is the road we used to take. If it weren't for her, in the grounds on that bench in spring, so many days. It was an escape, watching nature around us as she talked and smiled. And then there were the kitchens. Sometimes we stole food and ran back to the bench to eat it in secret, and we laughed. She did things to me. Sometimes she touched me. In the shower, I felt her body against mine for the first time. It was a shiver that warmed my soul. Eyes closed, the light slipped away.
Yeah,
She wasn't in the system. He wouldn't let her in. That's it. She must be the key to my memories, to the reasons why.
I don't entirely still grasp the chronology of things.
The scent of spring. The land of light was far away, and we spent the days chatting on the stone benches.
Okay, I have a feeling this let me exactly know her. But I wouldn't have known that if I didn't try.
Nature helped me to forget, to escape from the system. He told me about Bruna's father and brother, but I was already very ill. The light had returned, and that thing made me suffer even more. It was my world, and it was crumbling. When I spoke to Bruna about it, she turned her head away and was silent for a long time. Prince Charming doesn't exist, Renée. At least not for us. I was 14 years old. I didn't think it was possible for a boy to look at me and desire me. When he asked me if I wanted to go for a walk, I didn't say anything. I didn't even have the courage to look at him.
So handsome, it says here.
Things improved for a number of years. Then, suddenly, everything came crashing down. One evening, I came home drunk, and the following morning, a terrible crisis overcame me, all of a sudden. What had I done? I was terrified. I thought I'd lost my sight. The light burned my eyes from inside. The memories of the previous day emerged in bursts, images, flashes, which unleashed something monstrous inside me. Repetition of words was no longer sufficient. Now there was a voice in my head which repeated them louder than I did, and they were words of accusation and blame. So I covered...
It cut itself off on its own. I didn't do anything. So I covered my ears and shouted and hit my head against the wall and threw up. Yeah, again, words of accusation and blame inside of your own head for what I assume were things that were done that were not consensual. Like, it just makes me sad and sort of angry. Because this is something that I do believe is largely shaped by the general societal sort of expectation and your upbringing. Although not entirely, I think, but I think it plays a large role. You know, the sort of the inherent value that we used to and in many situations still do place on things like purity, sexual purity. It leads to those sort of repeated tragedies where victims of violence, they are re-traumatized by their own thoughts that brand them as unworthy because of something that happened outside of their control, and that was an evil done onto them in the first place, but then you're also judged for it sometimes.
I remember the doctor, the wall filthy with blood and vomit. My mother wasn't looking at me. Bruna was crying but trying to hide it. Charlotte was beside me. I never told anyone what had happened. He came to visit me, but I refused to see him. I became agitated. I think he liked me, even though things turned out badly. In that period, I began to suffer from memory loss. The few things I learned didn't please me at all. He told me that I was looking for him. It was all my fault. Bruna told me that sometimes I got drunk. People in the village gossiped about me. Sometimes I was covered in black and blue marks. I didn't realize what was happening to me, what I was doing. I was no longer in control of my life. From my little corner. He felt accused.
Okay, I heard that already before.
Come on, let's look everywhere. She must be here, I'm certain. Keep looking. We mustn't give up. I no longer considered my body as something disgusting and ill. Far from it. I began to look at myself, to caress myself, and smell my own skin. I began to explore and experiment, finding physical pleasure. My ideas were not very clear, and I never spoke to anyone about these things. Bruna, however, spoke about them. She boasted about her love stories and her young men. To my eyes, she was very lucky, always being wooed by marvelous, generous, and kind boys. Thus, I fantasized about her adventures, pretending that I was the main protagonist. But how could I ever be like her? Occasionally, I recall that she had black and blue marks on her body, but I was so naive that I did not understand. I did not put two and two together. It was Don Gino who explained things to me a few years later.
It cuts itself off a few years later. I'm not clicking F anymore, so it's not me doing that, at least I don't think so.
He told me about Bruna's father and brother, but I was already very ill. The light had returned, and that thing...
Okay, I listened to that already. So, is there also a part added here? No. And also, this is super creepy.
Where could she be? We've got to talk to her. Everything will be all right. But being here now, I don't like it. Come on, let's look for her, quickly. Adele, that little girl has been standing motionless in front of the kitchen door for hours. Poor thing, I gave her some candy. She ate it without a word and remained motionless. I don't think she's very well. We used to see her now and again, but now she's always there. I'm going. The doctor's not here. He's coming this afternoon. Try and speak to him. Poor thing. Lost in her dreams. She was only a little girl. But nobody gave her a cuddle. They punished her instead. They said she was sick and her dreams were troubling her. They weren't even hers anymore. I need her, but we will find her. We'll find her, won't we? When the water in the shower was cold, we ran away. But when it was hot, then she came to Renée under that cruel white light. I can still feel the shivers her body gave me. Everything must return to how it was. If we recreate that magic, she'll come to us.
I am a bit confused about the significance of those icons. Like, there's like a single person and a group, and there's a group crossed out, and there's a single person crossed out. Like, I don't know what that's about. Like, obviously it seems significant, but okay, I need to get hot water to the showers, I guess.
Now we have water. We must switch the boiler on.
I would assume that's the boiler, but where's like the crank or valve or switch for that? Like, I guess I'll take a look down here. Okay, crank this 2 times. Push the valve and do something. So that was 1 and 2, then 3 is the valve, 4 is the switch. And 5 is like a button? There's supposed to be like a button or maybe that's just the light that's indicated here. But I still haven't like switched on the boiler, I don't think.
Now we have water. We must switch the boiler on.
Yeah, but how do I do that exactly? Like, I would assume there would need to be a valve or some kind of something near the boiler itself, like on one of the pipes here, but I don't see anything like that. Oh, that's the switch.
Now everything is ready. We can go to the bathrooms. We can go along that narrow corridor in the kitchens. We'll meet her in the showers, yes. Now everything is ready. We can go to the bathrooms. We can go along that narrow corridor in the kitchens. We'll meet her in the showers, yes.
Well, this is the kitchen, so it's supposed to be... Okay, this is a narrow corridor for sure. For sure. But I will actually continue next time because this episode has been long enough. So that's all for this one, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.